Hello, designers. When you are shrink wrapping a gift and you don't want the plume on top, you just want a shrink wrap bag that's around the gift where you're going to add the bow on top, but not as a plume. Here is how you do that. First of all, you're going to have your shrink wrap bag, of course, around the gift basket or the box if you're using a box. And you can see that this shrink wrap bag happens to have a lot of shrink wrap on the left side and on the right side. You want to, of course, with any kind of shrink wrap bag, you want to have the bag between 2 inches and 3 inches as wide as the gift basket. It's not always possible because of the dimensions of the bag versus the basket, but you're going to do as best as possible to have that wiggle room and not so much wiggle room around your basket or your box. From there, you are putting the shrink wrap bag, you're adding the shrink wrap bag so that the opening is on the bottom. Again, you're not having the plume on the top. You're closing and fastening the shrink wrap bag on the bottom. And to do that, you of course need tape. And you're going to tape the bag as best as possible. You may end up taking the tape off because of the shrink wrapping itself, but you do need some kind of stabilization on the bottom, the underside of the basket, so that you can at least shrink wrap the bag properly. You're going to use maybe 3 pieces of tape, maybe 4 pieces, but don't worry about it because your customer or the recipient is not going to pick up the basket and look on the bottom and say, "Ooh, look how this has been done." No one is doing that. So don't worry about the tape on the bottom. You just want to secure and fasten the wrap so that you can properly shrink wrap the entire masterpiece that you've created. From there, you have your shrink wrap bag ready for shrink wrapping. And I did change the bag a bit because to go from having all of this extra bag on the side to not having so much on the side, yes, I did change the bag because, excuse me, it was way too big. From there, you are going to start shrinking your bag around the bottom side of your gift. The bottom, meaning the bottom portion, both in the front, the sides, and in the back. So you're going to shrink wrap that in that manner first. You can see that there's a little bit of shrink wrapping up here, which I'm sure that I took care of and didn't take a picture, but you do want to start with the bottom half of your basket first. The front, the sides, and the back. From there, you shrink wrap the top. You put your heat gun on the very top of the gift after you have secured the sides and bottom and the front of the bottom portion. Then you shrink the very top. And at that point, you're still going to have what I call ears of your shrink wrap bag because when you first started, you had these open sides, these extras to the shrink wrap bag. And you will still have those extras if you move your heat gun in the manner that I shared. And then you will still have these ears. Now, you can't really see it because it's clear, but you can see the ears, as I call them, the sides, the wide sides being held by my hand here. And you're just careful in shrinking the package at this point because the heat gun is hot. You want to keep all of your fingers and you're just going to hold the shrink wrap sides out until they start to shrink wrap in. Then you're going to use your hand to pat, P-A-T, pat the side of the shrink wrap while it's shrinking down so that it looks like on this left side, it's nice and tight. So again, you start with closing the bag around the gift so that you then tape the bottom. You then have the basket ready for shrink wrapping. You start with the bottom half around the front, the sides, and the back. Then you shrink the top. And then, not finally, but then you shrink the ears, the sides of the gift. And from there, I don't have a picture of it, but it's okay. Then you shrink the underside. And when you're shrinking the underside and you're doing that, you are going to be able to see how the tape either stays on or you have to remove the tape and replace the tape a bit as you shrink wrap. But meanwhile, you have the gift basket on its side so that the front of the basket is up toward the, I'm looking at it now. It's not the roof, it's the, it's the ceiling. My gosh. The front of your gift basket is looking at the ceiling, and you are able to clean up the bottom, the underside of the gift. From here, you're going to add your ribbon, and I'm going to show you that in another episode, in another video, how to add your ribbon. So does this work for you, or is there another way that you've been shrink wrapping your gifts? Are you, when you have no plume at the top, are you first taking care of the sides and then the bottom and then the top? You certainly have to shrink wrap the top part as well, the top half, which I didn't show, but of course you're shrinking that as well. What are the steps that you use? Or do these steps help you to shrink wrap your gift? You also see that the heat gun isn't too close to the shrink wrap itself. About 3 to 4 inches away from the shrink wrap is fine, so that you do not shrink the wrap and break the wrap. So you don't want to break the wrap. Let me know how this is going for you. This is Shirley George Frazier wishing you baskets of success.